Hi everybody and welcome to today's Crowdfunding for Sport webinar. Hopefully by the end of today's workshop you'll leave knowing more about crowdfunding and Sport Northern Ireland's Reboot Activate funds to prepare you to crowdfund for your sports organisation. At the end you'll be sent a link to the Learn platform which will show you how to crowdfund, giving you all the tools you need to run a successful sports campaign. Just before we get started, there's a few quick housekeeping points to be aware of. We've allowed 30 minutes for this session. It might take a little bit more than that. It just depends on the amount of questions that we get coming through from you guys. If you do want to ask a question, type it into the chat box in the right of your screen and we'll try to get through as many of those as we can towards the end of today's session. We are all working from home at the moment, so please do bear with us. There could be unexpected interruptions in the background, maybe a doorbell ringing or a dog barking. If you find you are having issues with your internet connection, please just refresh the browser and you should be able to come back into the live room. We will do the same. It may be up that we have technical issues our end, so again, please do bear with us. If you're wondering if we can see you, we can't. It's something that we get asked quite a lot. You can see us, but we can't see you, even though it's live. So what we're going to do today is we're going to run through the basics of crowdfunding, and we're also going to speak to somebody from Sport Northern Ireland. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Kirsty, who's our crowdfunding coach.
Hello, everyone.
Expert.
Either will do.
Yeah. She's all of them. I leave you to it.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to skip a couple of slides here. We'll come back to Chris at the end. Brilliant. Okay, so what is crowdfunding all about? So it's a great way essentially to engage with your community and your wider audience to create awareness of your project and your organisation and your activities. It's fairly simple and straightforward. You are going to add your idea to the crowdfunder platform and you'll create a page, something like this one on the right hand side. That will give you a unique page URL to then promote to your crowd, get the word out, and then you get funded. People see your page through that link, and that's where they donate and pledge. So it's really important once you sign up to create that page in a very creative way as well. You want it to look appealing and it needs to tell your story. And hi, Chris.
Apologies, some technical issues.
No problem at all. Do you want, shall I crack on with this and then we'll come back to you at the end? Is that all right?
That's fine, 100%.
The other way around. Perfect. So if you want to pop off screen just now, that'd be great. Okay. Sorry, Chris, do you want to turn your camera off just now and we'll come back to you at the end? Brilliant.
Okay, let me do that.
Great.
If I can figure out how to do it.
Oh, top, very top, the camera icon.
Oh, yeah.
And the microphone as well.
Okay, great.
Lovely. Oh, we can still see you, which is odd. We'll carry on. I'm just going to change the size of our. We can still see you for some reason, Chris. Don't know why, but let's just make us a little bit smaller. So, Zoe, I presume you can still hear me because.
I can still hear you. I can see you both, and I can hear you. I think let's roll with it and see how we get on.
So right, let's keep going. Okay, brilliant. Oops, Chris, I think you've maybe flipped through the slides as well. Thank you. Right, we'll get there. Technical issues. Okay, so creating your page, it needs to be visually appealing so that people understand and see what you're doing as well. So a video is always recommended if you can do that. About 2 minutes, and it just needs to describe what your project is looking to achieve in a nutshell. Not too overscripted. If you can get the community involved in speaking to camera, then all the better. You need to tell people who the organisation are, what you're looking to achieve and the benefits that it's going to bring, and have some nice bright images so to break up the text. You will need to create your page up front after registering on the website. And then once that's created, at that stage, you'll apply to the Sport Northern Ireland extra funding, which will appear in your dashboard. And as part of the application process, they will look at your page, review it for you, and consider the information. So it's really important to get all that down on your page prior to applying. So rewards-based crowdfunding is potentially something that some of you may not have heard of. So it runs alongside donations, but rewards is an opportunity to offer something in return for that financial contribution to your supporters. And you can get creative, get inventive, and try and think about your wider audience, appealing to both those sports related audience, but also those in the local community who don't necessarily want to take up the sport, but want to support your cause. So yes, for the sports people, things like coaching sessions are really useful. And appealing, but also we've got things like there on the screen, 2 hours of conversational Greek lessons, or a voucher for the fish and chip shop, a week's bunny boarding at the local bunny hotel. So go out and speak to local businesses, your local community, and see if they're able to offer you a reward in support of your campaign, rather than them actually giving you money. Now, a function or a feature rather on our website called Multiplier works really well for sports projects. So what that allows you to do is create your main project page, like the one on the left-hand side here. So this one was for Spencer Lacrosse Club, and that's your sort of your parent project. And then the Multiplier allows lots of individuals to run their own fundraiser pages, and then all the money from their pages feeds into that main project. So it really works well for sports clubs who tend to have a bit of a competitive streak there. So they can compete to see who can raise the most, or just do a little bit of fun, see who can cycle the furthest in half an hour on a stationary bike, for example. So it gets people involved and more directly impacting the fundraising efforts. Now, the extra funding, I'm going to touch a little on this, but Chris will obviously expand on it when he talks as well. So how it actually works is that there is £650,000 that's been made available within the pot, and that's essentially there until it runs out. It's up to £5,000 available per project. And you apply through the platform, through our crowdfunder platform, and the Sport Northern Ireland will make a decision based on the content of your page, but also then as a percentage of your target, they will allocate a pledge if you're successful in that. And they'll consider things like where you are on the index of multiple deprivation as well in that. So it's a maximum of 50% of your initial target that you've set yourselves. So once you're successful in securing a pledge, you then will go live and start crowdfunding. Once you reach 25% of your target and the set number of supporters that you need to reach as a condition of that pledge, and that is it becomes higher the higher your target is. So for this example, you're required to get at least 25 supporters, so that will be a target of up to £5,000 for that example. So once you reach those two conditions, 25% of your target and the minimum number of supporters, the Sport Northern Ireland pledge will appear on your page and count towards the target. You then need to go on and reach 100% of your initial target. And at that point, that's when that pledge is secured. If your project closes and you haven't reached 100% of target, then the money, the pledge from Sport Northern Ireland is returned to them. So, but if you get to 100% and you've still got some time left on that live campaign period, you can add what we call a stretch target. You can keep going and adding a stretch target and a little message alongside that to tell people what the extra money will go towards. Just keeps your crowd going. It gives them, you and them, a reason to keep fundraising towards the cause. So sport crowdfunds really well, you'll be glad to hear. Here's just a small selection of projects that have successfully crowdfunded. It goes really hand in hand with sports because there's that team element, that you've got probably a community already in place, a crowd to go out to, and that competitive streak as well of wanting to reach your goals and reach those targets. So it does crowdfund very well, and a huge array of different sports: speed skating, swimming, gymnastics, and volleyball, as we'll be hearing in a few moments as well. So yeah, it really goes hand in hand. And in terms of the support you can expect from Crowdfunder and Sport Northern Ireland as well, obviously you'll get feedback on your page from the team at Sport NI, but we always suggest as well, recommend really doing the online learning that's available, and it will talk you through step by step how to put the perfect page together, and then really just expands on all the key points that I've touched on in this webinar here. So that's your next step before you actually start putting your page together. Okay, Chris, I'm going to go back, I think. Zoe, I'll hand over to you, and then I think Chris will talk before we introduce Jonathan potentially.
Hi, Chris, are you there? Thanks, Kirsty. That's brilliant. We're doing things a little bit backwards, but that's okay. Chris, can you come back on screen if you are there, please? And we can talk a little bit more about the fund. Just wait a few more moments to see if we can get Chris back up. Hey, Chris, if you could turn your camera on and your audio on. So if you just hover over the microphone and the video symbol, you should be able to turn yourself back on and come back into the live room. We'll give it a moment. If not, I think it's best to kind of carry on, and then we can come back to Chris as and when we can. I think we might be having a few technical issues Chris's end. Okay. Kirsty, would you like to come back on screen, and we can see if we can sort Chris's camera out in just a moment. We'll carry on through the crowdfunding element, and we'll see if we can talk to Chris in more detail in a little bit. Kirsty, you're on mute at the moment.
This whole webinar seems to be cursed.
It is cursed. What is going on?
We've got somebody appearing there. I'm not sure. Let me see if we can. Chris is appearing. I can see in the settings he does have his video on.
Same, but he's just not actually there. So I think there might be a technical issue.
Okay.
From Chris's side.
Chris, if you can hear us, potentially if you refresh your browser, that might reconnect you to the room. You'll drop out and rejoin us. There we go.
He's left and he's joined. Keeping everything crossed. Oh, yay! He's here.
I'm here.
I'm going to go.
Okay.
Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you. This
Brilliant.
is amazing. Right. But would you please talk us through a little bit more detail about the fund that's available through Sport Northern Ireland?
Happy to, and I hope you've all been waiting for this, because this is,
it's the big moment. It's the drum roll.
Moments. Okay. Listen, firstly, apologies. Technology and me don't tend to work particularly well, which is shown today. So my apologies for this. So look, without further ado, our Activate program is the second of our Build Back Better COVID recovery program. First one was Team Up, which launched last summer. This is our second one, Activate. So it's the first time that we've been using Crowdfunder UK, which is a really new and innovative approach to distributing funding from a Sport Northern Ireland perspective. And we're one of the first public sector organisations that's doing it in Northern Ireland. We're quite pleased with that. And it's something that our colleagues in Sport England and Sport Wales have done really successfully to help the sports sector go through the global pandemic. And we've been using this sort of portal and system for the last 3 to 4 months, and it's been brilliant. It's worked really, really well. The programme itself was born out of information that the sports sector provided us through the club survey and COVID consultations. This was based on information that the sports sector provided us. And what you said was you wanted greater links with the community. You wanted a programme that helped source partnership funding. You wanted something innovative with the greater use of digital technology and communication. and you wanted to support new forms of digital communication, you know, the use of social media, etc. We took that all on board, and this is how our Project Reboot Activate with Crowdfunder UK came about. A wee bit about the funding itself. There's up to it's 50% match funding up to a ceiling of 5k. So in simple terms, if you have a project or a program that is 10k in total, 10 grand in total, we can give you up to £5,000 in match funding. So you have to raise 5 and we give you 5. If you have a £3,000 program, we can give you up to 1.5k towards that. However, if you have something like a 15 grand program, the maximum we can only give is 5. So 5k is the absolute maximum we can give out the sports sectors. With really simple criteria. So one, you have to be an eligible organisation, so a club, a charity with a sports related focus, community organisation, etc. with sport. This is really important. It has to be COVID related. Okay, so how COVID has impacted your sport or your organisation, and how this program is going to address a problem that COVID has led to your club. Hitting your target groups, which is standard with Sport Northern Ireland, you know, children, young people, disabled, ethnic minorities, women, old people, etc. And that's our target groups. Now that you'll find all that information on our website, just for greater information. And then the final thing is we look at the quality of your campaign page. You know, we look at the narrative, the use of video, photographs, the level of rewards, to see if your campaign page will entice the crowd to support it. It's important to note that Sport NI, we're trying to help change behaviours, both for themselves and both for the sporting sector. So we're really going to try and give you an answer within 5 days. We're going to turn this around really, really quickly. So if you put a submission in, we will assess it within 5 days and give you an answer. None of this waiting 2 to 3 months for a response. We're using Mango Pay, which helps get money transferred really, really quickly. So I think it's, the guys from Crowdfunder will probably back me up. I think it's anything between 7 to 10 days you get your money transferred across very quickly.
Yeah. You
can amend your page and resubmit it. So if you put a campaign page in to be assessed by us and you have to tweak it or change it, and we've asked for some suggestions, you can go back out, change it, and then resubmit it. Okay, so it's open-ended. Now we are closing this program on the 19th of March, but we are going to open a new amended program in April. We are looking at the way this program Activate has worked, and we're going to tweak it and add some new changes and maybe look at the eligibility and see if we can encourage some different groups to apply. So for this one, it closes 19th of March. The other thing you can, with use of Crowdfunder in this, is you can track your progress online. You can see how close you're getting to the target. You can see who's donated. You can see who's taking your rewards, etc. So in real time, you can see the progress of your crowdfunding campaign page. I suppose our mantra for this is we're trying to find ways to fund and reasons not reasons not to fund. Okay, so we're trying to find ways to get money to the sports sector who's been adversely affected due to COVID-19. All projects have to be completed by the 30th of June. So for the program that's closing on the 18th of March, sorry, not 19th, 18th of March, you have to have it done and dusted by the 30th of June. Okay. The minimum limit we're really suggesting is probably around £500. It's not really worthwhile to crowdfund for anything less. Okay. So if you've got a project that's £1,000, you can give 500 towards it. It is important to note that if you don't hit your target, we do reserve the right to withdraw our offer. But as Chloe will tell you, she'll not let you fail, you know, and to date, no application that has come in and we've supported has failed to hit their target. In fact, they've all exceeded their target. As we mentioned earlier, we've put together a really good support package with our colleagues from Crowdfunder. You know, we have our training courses like today. We have got Chloe, who's our crowdfunding coach, who will provide one-to-one support to applicants, you know, and help them during this journey. We also have our internal Sport Northern Ireland team, Project Reboot team, who are at the end of a phone and the end of an email, and we're here to help you with your project and help you get over the line. Our comms team is also available, marketing team, and we can help support through our own social media and video content. We can do that and use our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. We can help print out flyers, posters, QR codes, all those things which our comms guys have been doing really successfully for applications. Finally, it is important to say what we can and can't fund. This is not a capital program. Do not be putting in for capital works, new toilet blocks, architect's fees, etc. Okay, that's not eligible. Pretty much everything else is, coaching fees, transport costs, facility hire, equipment that's under £1,000. Those things are all eligible. Sorry, one thing we can't fund the salary costs. So you're a development officer or a staff member, we can fund coaching fees, but we can't offset salary costs. So salary costs and capital program are probably the two main red areas that we can't fund. Everything else within reason, and if it's COVID related and new and additional, we can support. So good luck. This is a really new way of funding, and we've been really, really pleased, and the feedback I'm getting sports who've gone through it have been really, really pleased. We've 16 clubs who already have succeeded in the last 3 months of hitting their crowdfund targets. We have a lot more waiting to hit their target and working really, really hard to get it, and they're really close. We've had clubs and organisations who said they've engaged with new members, they've got new sponsors. It's reinvigorated the club, reinvigorated their youth section. And look, all I can say is good luck. And we're at the end of a phone or an email to help you guys put in your applications.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was brilliantly kind of in depth, and hopefully it's really inspired some more clubs to actually sign up for the fund. And like you say, there's a lot of support there, isn't there, from not only yourselves, but from Crowdfunder as well. Yeah. Would you mind sticking around for the end of the webinar in case anyone's got any specific questions for yourself about the fund?
No problem. Happy to.
Brilliant. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind just turning your video and your mic off for just a few moments. And if Kirsty, are you there to come back on? And we're going to speak to Jonathan. Sorry, my fault on this one. Jonathan, are you there? And we'll actually have a talk with somebody who's recently run a crowdfunder. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Watching
the technical issues from the wings. So you've recently crowdfunded, haven't you? You managed to raise just over £3,000 for your club, and that was from 28 supporters. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your crowdfunding project and your club?
Yeah, we're, as you can see there, we're a volleyball club based in Garvagh. I'm not sure if everybody knows where that is, but it's very close to Coleraine on the north coast. We had a very strong club pre-COVID and good healthy numbers, but like a lot, especially with the indoor sports side taking the biggest sort of time to recover, we lost a lot of members, either, just moving on to different things and so on and so forth. So it left us in a position where, when the club was able to return last September, we were down on where we sort of need to be to make the club sustainable. So I had a chat with the committee and talked to them about the crowdfunder. A lot of people weren't really aware of it, so I had to get them on board first of all. But we come up with just basically a female and junior development program, and that would be the project that we would push through the crowdfund. Basically, what we planned to do out of it was increase our capacity within the female side of the club and our junior members for both male and female. Ideally, we'll increase our membership. It gets more income back into the club. It gets us back to that sort of sustainable position that we were pre-COVID. And ultimately, it means we can, create more opportunities for our members, coming from that development stage into the competitive aspect of the club as well. So it's in everybody's benefit, shall I say.
Amazing. And we talked a little bit before we launched the webinar about kind of crowdfunding versus other kind of funding streams or grant applications. What made you guys decide to crowdfund as opposed to going down a different route?
I think, in the past we've done the more traditional, funding applications, for equipment, for development, so on and so forth. But what I liked about the crowdfund was it allowed the flexibility for us to come up with, Chris mentioned the aspects that you won't be funded for, but pretty much everything else goes. So we could come up with a project that suited our needs, and it took away that sort of rigid nature of filling out a long application form, submitting it, waiting 2-3 months, and then having maybe 4 or 5 weeks to spend it before the end of the financial year, which tends to happen quite a bit. This one allowed us to do it at our pace. Mm-hmm. We could take all the time to actually develop the page, get the pictures in it that we want to tell the story that we want to, get videos in there and make it appealing to people before we went live with it. So I really, that aspect of it, I thought was fantastic. It sort of, when we were ready to go, that's when it went live.
Oh, that's great to hear. Did you find anything difficult about setting up the page or running the crowdfunder at all?
I will be honest, I came in this with no experience of crowdfunder. I didn't attend any webinars or anything. So I was complete novice to it, but it was very easy. It's very self-explanatory. It takes you through step by step. If you're missing any information, you guys get in touch, to inform us what we needed to update. With the additional funding then from Sport NI, once we submitted that to them, as Chris said, they come back with advice. No, I think you need to change a little bit here. You need to add a little bit there, and so on and so forth. So I can only say good things about the whole process from start to finish.
Oh, amazing. And you did touch a little bit on there, and I think Chris did as well, that clubs and organisations shouldn't be disheartened if they do get declined from their initial application. There's a lot of support from Crowdfunder and Sport NI to actually get people and their campaigns up to the kind of level that then they will be approved. So don't ever let that kind of be disheartening for you. It's an improvement guide, essentially, that will kind of come through to you. And what was the best kind of part of the experience for you? And were there any other benefits for the club as opposed to just financial?
Overall, the club has, I think this is the same with most clubs. If everybody was honest, they become reliant on maybe one or two people to do a little bit of everything for the club. And that's probably the volleyball club's reliance on me. As I say, I work in sports development, so from a funding aspect, I tended to do a lot of our applications in the past. This one, whilst I'd done the work to create the project and put it live, it put the emphasis back on the rest of the club. This is us now. Go, spread the word. Get it out there to family, friends, businesses, so on and so forth. And I think that 18 months of the club not being together, it brought everybody together quite quickly again. So it did, and sort of everybody was working to the same goal, of getting the donations in so that we could achieve our target.
Brilliant. Oh, that's good. So it was a bit of a nice team effort, which is always what we like to see at Crowdfunder. What advice would you give to any of the organisations attending today that might be thinking about crowdfunding? Have you got one piece of kind of gold advice to help them?
Keep the ball rolling on it. And it was something that I will be honest, we struggled with. It was we started off well. We had a big dip in the middle to the point where I thought, right, well, we're not going to get there. And it ended up with the last, I would say, frantic 3 or 4 days where we shouted at a lot of people, shall we say, and the donations then started coming in. And just so folks are aware, our initial target was 1,500. So you can see there that we've doubled what we planned to do. So that was a big surprise, I must say, because at one point, I'd say about 4 or 5 days out from the closing date, we were nowhere near that.
Oh, it's something that is actually, it's quite common. We talk about the U shape of crowdfunding, and everyone gets all excited at the beginning of a project launching and they want to get behind you. And then it does naturally tail off. It kind of dips into the bottom of the U, if you like. And then towards the end, there's almost that urgency to try and get you over the line.
I think it was more, to be honest with you, I think it's more that people were committed to it and they said, oh, yeah, no problem. We'll definitely donate. But because the closing date said whatever it was in December, I thought, well, there's a bit of time in that yet. And that's why it ended up a very last rush. It
can be a really kind of a good takeaway kind of piece of advice, is to try and see how you can combat that kind of dip in the momentum. And you're right, people do exactly that. They think, oh, it's not closing yet, I won't pledge just yet. And then it's kind of, how do you engage with those people to keep it trickling in throughout the whole of the crowdfunder? But that's really good advice, actually. And I think Kirsty might have talked about the dashboard. You can always keep an eye on your crowdfunder and see when people are pledging and how it's coming in, you know, how your marketing and promotion is being effective. So that's awesome. I think where are we up to? We've hit the half an hour mark. It would be great to bring back Kirsty and Chris. If you wouldn't mind hanging on as well, Jonathan, and we'll see if anyone's got any questions that they'd like to ask to any of you. Have we got any questions coming through from the chat box?
There's nothing
Can't
yet.
see anything as yet.
It's a nice crowd today, you know. It's just no.
Obviously, just absorbing everything.
There is plenty of information on our website, and then obviously on you know, on just eligibility and priority groups. So if you're unsure, just check our website out. Or as I said, I've put our Project Reboot email. Drop us an email, and we come back to you really quickly. You know, if there's any of the mechanics on the program, we're happy to come back to you.
Brilliant. Where is it? I'm just going to put a link to the Learn platform into the chat box. So that would be the next step for everybody, is to go and take a look at the Learn platform and work your way through the online courses.
Definitely. We've got a question coming there from Una.
Yep.
The only time limit that we would have is Una, for this element of Project Reboot Activate. The 18th of March is when applications have to be in by, and then we were closing for a few weeks. And then if you've come in at the 18th of March, your program has to be done by the end of June. Okay, but we're indicatively the new Project Reboot Activate, which we're hoping to launch in April. It will run from April 22 through to March 23. So that would be the program.
In terms of the live campaign period, Una, you do need to select a number of weeks it's going to run for before you hit the go live button to generate a set closing date. We normally recommend a crowdfunder runs between 4 to 6 weeks, because you need to, as Jonathan's talked about, keep that momentum going. And so, you know, running a longer crowdfunding campaign doesn't necessarily equate to raising more money. You need that sort of urgency to create the momentum. So 4 to 6 weeks, and then alongside the guidelines there that Chris has offered for the funding.
Perfect. We've got another question just come in from Melvin. They have existing sponsors. What would be a good starting point when approaching them? And I guess maybe informing them about the crowdfunder. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Melvin, or how you would approach the combination of crowdfunding and additional kind of external existing sponsors. Or whether they're approaching them to sponsor on the crowdfunder. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I'm not
what the
quite sure
question is there.
If you want me to, and
yeah,
maybe it's not the right one, but Melvin, same scenario. We have obviously shared sponsors and so on for the club, you know, for the playing kits and stuff like that. There, we went to them and asked them, did they want, you know, when they're renewing the sponsorship with us, to do it through the crowdfunder. So then it was a way of us generating the money from our sponsors through the fund, you know what I mean, obviously to help the club, so that there was a couple that were in a position to do that. So there were.
We also have we've some clubs that, you're right, Melvin, they approached their local sponsors for rewards, you know, so some had links with local coffee shops, or we had a sports kit dealer, and they were given you know, a number of vouchers as a reward as well. So yeah, it depends on your relationship with your sponsor, but if your sponsor is really good and really supports the club, you know, you could promote them for some sort of rewards. Or if it's a local business that's really close to your bowling club, you know, the players might use, if it's a restaurant, if it's a coffee shop, or if it's you know, another local business, you know, you could approach them for a reward. Laurie's asked about capital projects. No, we this is not a capital program. This is revenue. So anything capital related, refurbishment, unfortunately, is not eligible under this program.
Thank you, Chris. That was going to be the next one, so that's perfect. Anybody else with any other questions? I'm just conscious that we have run over the half an hour, but we can definitely fit a few more questions in if there is anything that people would like to ask. Okay, Melvin's going to chat with you, Chris, so that's good.
That's fine, Melvin. If you just use the Project Reboot email and put your mobile number on it, I'll give you a wee ring back this afternoon. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think if that's all the questions we've got coming in, I think we could probably wrap it up. But thank you, everybody, for attending. And thank you so much, Chris, and Jonathan and Kirsty, for joining us today as well. Hopefully that's been really informative and a bit inspirational as well for people hoping to start their crowdfunding journey. Yeah. So thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of your day.
Great.
Thanks now. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.